Justin Muturi reveals his ambition of serving 2 terms in the National Assembly as Speaker. Researchers destroy fake anti-polio vaccines after conclusion of study. And from cocoa production to tourism, find out what Sao Tome is venturing into. Right, those are some of our top stories at this hour. Good afternoon and many thanks for joining us on the Weekend at 1 on this 30th day of July. My name is Michelle Ngene. We begin in the National Assembly. The Speaker of the National Assembly, Justin Muturi, has hinted on seeking another term to be at the helm of Parliament. Muturi has defended his tenure as Speaker, saying he has done his best to serve all sides of the political divide, despite having been elected under the Jubilee coalition. Muturi says he is not ashamed to say he was made Speaker because he belongs to Jubilee, but that does not prevent him from being impartial and fair in performing his mandate as Speaker of the National Assembly. Speaking in Kangaroo High School during the Embu Academic Excellence Day, Senate Majority Leader Kithure Kindiki said they will support the re-election of Muturi as Speaker after the next general election.
Kwa hivyo wanasema ukimwona hapo basi, kwa hivyo huyu mtu si dependent, ni dependent namna gani? Hapa sio nini? Hapa sio bunge. Na kule bunge ni kura watu wanapiga. Mkiwa wachache mjue mtashindwa. Wengine wanasema iko kitu inaitwa tyranny, wanaogopa tyranny pale bunge, na tyranny ni demokrasia. It's just saying the majority will have their way while the minority will be allowed to have their say.
Akuwe Speaker mara ya pili 2017 because he has done a good job, na kwa niaba yangu na mwenzangu wa National Assembly Aden Duale, the Jubilee family and all of us supports you, na tunaomba Deputy President na President pia watuunge mkono Justin Muturi apate second term kuwa Speaker wa National Assembly.
Kenya has destroyed more than 1,000 polio viruses that were used for research at the country's Medical Research Institute to avoid accidental or deliberate release to the public. Medics destroyed over 1,000 wild polio virus 2 samples and materials in line with the WHO guidelines for countries to destroy any polio virus 2 materials by the end of this month. This follows the global eradication of wild polio virus 2 and new guidelines that require the withdrawal of all oral polio vaccines. According to the WHO, oral polio vaccine is made with weakened polio viruses, and on rare occasions, the vaccine can cause vaccine-associated paralytic polio and circulating vaccine-derived polioviruses.
Type 2 viruses to meet global deadlines that have been set when these dangerous pathogens must be contained and destroyed. Today's destruction of the virus will go a long way to assuring the country and the global community that accidental or deliberate release of polioviruses to communities from this facility is eliminated.
The government of Kenya, in collaboration with the World Health Organization and other partners, remain fully committed to the achievement of a global goal for certification for polio-free countries.
The wars surrounding controversial Senator Paul Njoroge deepened after traders and farmers from his backyard held demonstrations against him. The over 500 demonstrators burnt the effigy of the nominated senator just a few meters from his home in Maraigushu Center in Naivasha, accusing him of overstepping his mandate. Carrying placards and twigs, the agitated residents also burnt his effigy, calling on President Uhuru Kenyatta to revoke his nomination. The demo came barely a month after Naivasha residents demonstrated over the senator's remarks regarding the candidature of Deputy President William Ruto in 2022.
Tunajua ni mtu wa uongo kabisa. aondolewe katika orodha ya kuwaongoza wananchi. Shauri hafai. Hafai.
Huyu jamaa watu hapa hampendi, hata sio sasa ati anaanza kuwasubua, amewasubua hata hapo mbeleni. Mara ya mwisho alisimama kiti ya kansela, hakufikisha hata zaidi ya kura 5.
The head of the Anglican Church in Kenya, Archbishop Jackson Ole Sapit, is voicing the church concern about the spate of school fires that continue to be experienced in different parts of the country. The Archbishop says school heads should ensure adequate security measures are put in place to protect schools' infrastructure. In the last 3 months, 117 Kenyan schools have been partially burnt by arsonists. Yet, the arson attacks, which are countrywide, don't seem to correspond to any of the usual ethnic, geographical or socio-economic fault lines that often spark tension in Kenya. A confidential report by the Police and Education Ministry identifies a clear pattern of behavior in the planning of the crimes as authorities struggle to contain the phenomenon.
Destruction of schools' infrastructure, mainly dormitories, that has been witnessed in some schools is likely to undermine the gains that the country continues to make towards improving cases, equity and quality of education for the Kenyan child. We also want to remind our students that in the case of demanding for their rights, they must exercise responsibility. Schools' activities are running normally in 99% of the country's 9,300 secondary schools. However, it was noted that the cases of unrest in a minimal number of schools is a cause of concern to all stakeholders in the education sector, and all efforts must be made by parents, teachers, clergy, security enforcers and officers, and even students to stop the indiscipline.
Now, Lazaro Sumbeyo is a name that cannot miss when describing the South Sudan peace process. In an exclusive interview with my colleague Kisa Wandera, Sumbeyo talks about his experience as the IGAD mediator on Sudan from 2001 to 2005, answering questions on the format of the negotiations, the role of international observers, the mediation strategies used, and the difficult points in the talks. Take a look.
Well, now President Salva Kiir and, if I could say, immediate former Vice President Riek Machar have signed agreements after agreement since the secession in 2011, the involvement of the regional community, the international community. But do you think that these peace deals, these peace agreements are shoved down their throats, that they are unable to implement them because in the first place they were not for them?
Well, if they wanted to make it work, it would work. But because they don't want to make it work, because they are not convinced themselves that this is the resolution of the conflict, this is the way to resolve this conflict, it is unfortunate that you know, they have to be forced. They cannot negotiate forever.
You've worked with South Sudan for a very long time, and you have experience, hands-on experience with these people. What do you think is ailing South Sudan?
There are 3 things that are ailing South Sudan. One is greed. The elite wants to control resources that are very scarce at the moment. 2, ethnicity. The elite again are riding on ethnicity. They are riding on their own people. And the 3rd one is really the economic meltdown.
How would you describe the way the international community has reacted to South Sudan?
I think the international community have failed to understand South Sudanese. If they understood South Sudanese, they would at least try to find out from them how they would like to resolve this conflict. It could actually take tribal chiefs to resolve this conflict in South Sudan, rather than a roundtable conference, because we will be prescribing something which is alien to them.
Well, just the other day, President Salva Kiir replaced Riek Machar as the vice president with General Taban Dengai. Is this against the peace agreements that they signed?
No. I don't think the United Nations read the agreement correctly. The agreement says very clearly that the position of the first vice president will come from IO. It doesn't say it comes from, it's going to be Riek Machar. So anybody from IO, and it says in the succession that whoever the leadership of the IO will nominate will be then sworn in as the first vice president within 48 hours of the vacancy falling vacant.
Going forward, what do we expect to see from South Sudan, bearing in mind that the international community is roped in, the regional governments as well are roped in? What do we expect to see going forward?
I would expect, first of all, the implementation of this agreement. If this agreement is implemented in accordance with what they agreed, then it will move forward. And we would see some semblance of peace. But more than that, first of all, the region, the AU, which is really dependent also on others, but the international community should first of all come and feed the people of South Sudan. The people of South Sudan, as of today, including those who are in Juba, are suffering. They have no food, because for the last 2 years they have not planted any food. And so they need food. So the international community, if there is established a system of governance, they should move in and feed the people of South Sudan.
Right, Kisawandera there with Lazaro Sumbeyo, a mediator in South Sudan. Now, Turkana and Pokot counties have embarked on a peace-strengthening mission along its borders, led by their area members of parliament. The two counties have been faced by cases of cattle rustling and boundary disputes. The leaders spoke at Takwel Gorge after meeting over 60 reformed warriors from the two communities. Residents present at the event were urged to go on monitoring the situation, liaising with authorities to do away with culprits who are still inciting locals. The three-day crisis meeting crossing along the borders has been welcomed by the residents who seek to live peacefully. Several projects are supposedly going to be launched soon by the government along the border of the two communities, including the reopening of the Takwel power plant.
Wajaribu kutumia ile kiti ama ile pesa ya biashara kuwapatia vijana, kupatia kina mama, ili wasahau ile maovu ambayo ilikuwa, waanze kutengeneza uchumi yao.
Baada ya sisi kupata amani, hii amani iko na stages. Ya kwanza ilikuwa ni ceasefire. Ya pili ilikuwa ni kuweka kamati, forming structures. The third one was to reward the committees and the reformed warriors. And then the fourth stage ni ile ya kuweka ile inaitwanga burying the hatchet.
Some of us are really serious about this particular piece, because other counties have been moving forward and Turkana and West Pokot have been lagging behind because our people are fighting over nothing. Over one cow that is stolen today, taken to Turkana, tomorrow is brought back to West Pokot, and in that process our people lose life, our people lose property.
The two-day event has brought about 27,000 farmers to Nyeri County for the event. Carol Nderi was there and now filed the following report.
All roads led to the Wambogo Farm Agricultural Center in Nyeri County for the annual field day that draws thousands of farmers from the Mount Kenya region and beyond. The two-day event is expected to attract about 27,000 farmers who will get a chance to learn about new farming methods, proper farm practices, better seed varieties, and all things agriculture. The seemingly healthy kale and spinach leaves, larger than what most people are accustomed to, attracted the participants to the various stands as they sought to understand and learn what they would have to do to make their own crops turn out this way. The different types of vegetables showcased here, an indicator that proper farming techniques could lead to a bumper harvest for farmers. Over 120 exhibitors from different agricultural sectors such as dairy farming, fisheries, cash crops such as coffee and tea, and so much more sought to enlighten the farmers and teach them about what they might be doing wrong on their farms and how to correct possible mistakes that they might be making. This is a region where agriculture is the main economic stay. The farmers, most of them wondering where do they go wrong once they do not get the yield they anticipated.
Ni ya muhimu sana siku kama ya leo kunakuwa na ile tunaita interaction between farmers and the producers, ambapo wakulima wanaweza kujua ni mbegu gani ya eneo yao, sababu tuko na mbegu za low altitude, mid altitude na high altitude.
Kwa jumla ile makosa wakulima wanafanya aswa ni upande wa mbegu. Unakuta mkulima ana lengo ya kupata mazao mengi, lakini hajui kwamba hii ni kupitia mbegu bora. Ndio maana Continental Seeds tunajivunia kwamba tuko na mbegu bora ambazo zinasaidia wakulima, na tunahimiza wakulima wajaribu kuongea na Continental Seeds ndio tusaidiane kwamba wapate mbegu ambazo zinafaa zaidi kwa katika maeneo yao ya kilimo.
The County Executive for Agriculture in Nyeri County, Robert Thuo, said the field day has been running for the last 7 years and getting better each year. The forum provides an opportunity for farmers to learn about better methods of farming, but also an opportunity to network with potential buyers and marketers for their produce.
This is usually an annual event. It started all the way from 1997 at small scale, but I'm happy that we have been growing. Last year we had a record of over 25,000 farmers. This year now, this particular time, we expect more than 27,000 farmers. The number of exhibitors has been on the rise.
The county governments have been urged to provide better incentives for farmers, such as subsidized fertilizers and opportunities to allow value addition of farm produce to flourish, as well as assist in marketing of cash crops such as coffee, a produce that has been faced by various challenges.
The cooperatives must also do proper business. Proper governance is required at that point. Because what is happening is farmers are going for advances abruptly. For example, if a farmer gets an advance of 20 shillings, that money will be recovered and it will have accrued some interest. The other bit, so when it comes now to releasing of what we call the PCRs, they say that they are being paid less. The other area is they are also granting out of freedom in terms of borrowing powers. So these are areas that the county government is trying to intervene.
Other stakeholders from various sectors were here too. Eunice Muthithi sought to explain to farmers that ensuring their crops might cushion them from unforeseen disasters such as floods or even droughts.
And if a farmer loses their entire crop, then that means that those are losses and they might not be able to recover. So in order to mitigate that, then a farmer should take out insurance, because it means that even if they lose their crop through drought or floods or any other multifarial aspects like insects, then they can be reimbursed and they can be taken back to their initial position.
Carol Nderi, KT News, Wambugu Farm, Nyeri County.